We have a board meeting with a really awesome big client tomorrow, and I'm not going to be there. That is breaking that old belief that I need to be there as the representation of the company. I've always naturally led. I'm learning now that I don't have to be that person. I don't have to be in the driver's seat coming up with the piece. The biggest change that I've seen in my career, in my childhood, would probably be my ability to let things go.
It's relaxing, isn't it? It's just kind of let go and fall back, and things just fall in place beautifully without you. And meanwhile, you're more peaceful and more happy and more relaxed. I think that makes it even more effective.
That's the ironic part of it, right?
That's the ironic part of it.
Yes.
It's very much like sports. I mean, we learned that from sports, like martial arts and things like that. The more relaxed you are, the more effective you are.
I think a true leader, somebody who has a mission of human on purpose, to say that and then not encourage somebody to take a new job, encourage somebody to explore a new opportunity. I think it's just lip service.
This is the Business Philosopher Within You podcast. I'm your host, Bhavesh Naik. At some point in every company's journey, the philosophy that fuels its early success must evolve, or it becomes a bottleneck. For leaders stepping into a founder's shoes, the question becomes, how do you honor the legacy while building a scalable, people-powered future? Our guest today is Rob Gaedtke, President and CEO of KPS3, who has lived that challenge head-on. Over 16 years, Rob has guided KPS3, a Reno-based marketing and communications agency, from a founder-driven firm into a purpose-led organization with nearly 50 employees and close to $10 million in revenue. Under his leadership, KPS3 has embraced the idea of being human on purpose, proving that culture, not process, is the ultimate competitive edge. His leadership mantra, "Stop managing, start leading," captures the essence of modern organizational philosophy. Challenge your people, respect them, value them, and then get out of their way. I am pleased to have you on this podcast, Rob.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here, Bhavesh.
And a special shout out to you, our listener. Hey, listen, we learn from each other and grow with each other. This podcast won't be possible without your interest and engagement. Please remember to like, subscribe, follow, share, comment, and most important, ask and answer questions. Thank you for tuning in. So, Rob, human on purpose. That seems like a pretty intriguing tagline, and I want to get into that. And but a bit later, I want to start with kind of getting a feel for your arc. How you started with 16 years ago, right? KPS3. You started with KPS3 16 years ago. Something like that?
Yeah, my first stint with KPS3 was 16 years ago, and then I left and came back.
Yeah. So what drew you into KPS3 after you joined it? Was there anything special about it?
Absolutely. The founder, Stephanie Cruz, she was a bold, very, very loud and energetic leader in the marketing space.
Right.
And, she really did lead with a sense of purpose, a sense of drive that, anybody at the company could take it over, that anybody at the company could sort of be whatever they wanted to be. And I really loved that spirit. I loved how she could control a room, and it drew me in.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And when did you take on the role of a CEO?
Yeah, so I've been in the CEO seat for about 12 years now.
Oh, wow.
I believe it's more than a decade for sure.
Yeah.
I'm coming up on 13 years in the CEO seat. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you started with KPS3, and about those 4 years before you took on the role of a CEO, what was the culture like, or what was the, if we talk about business philosophy, which includes, among many other things, the values and the vision and those kinds of things, purpose, right? And also the strategies and all the things that gets us to the nuts and bolts, right?
Yeah.
So if you can kind of give us a sense of what it was like, KPS3 under Stephanie's leadership when, before you became a CEO.
Yeah, I think it's very typical in a business arc as you talk about to have the founder really the face of the company.
Yeah.
Stephanie Cruz, KPS3,
Yeah.
they're really one and the same, right?
Yes.
You
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
can't think about Steph without thinking KPS3 and vice versa. And so, that was really the culture and the new business strategy. Everything was sort of centered around who she was.
Yeah.
Her personality was our values.
Yes.
Her friends were our clients, and I
Yeah.
think that's a very common pathway for a lot of agencies.
Right. Right. Right.
Hmm.
And was there a sense of vision at that point? That and you must have latched onto something that excited you
Hmm.
about to engaged you to the firm. It sometimes is spoken, but sometimes it's actually not spoken. Right? It's
Hmm.
unspoken, and so there's a sense of vision. So was there something like the vision, or it wasn't there?
Yeah, Steph's drive was definitely focused on expanding and
Yeah.
growth.
Yeah.
We were a fairly local agency, most of our clients local, and so her vision in the beginning was to sort of grow that, expand that, but moreover. The vision was to bring on technical expertise.
Sure.
At that time, not a lot of agencies were very high tech.
Right.
Not a lot of agencies. There were web shops, there were tech shops, and then there were
Right.
brand shops.
Yeah.
And so her vision, when I came back on, was to really establish our presence in that space.
Hmm.
So I think that was the sort of vision that drew me back into KPS3 when I came back.
Yeah. Become technically competent, or
Hmm.
something like that. Yeah.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
to not just be the brand and creative shop, but
Right.
actually be the ones who could drive evolution, drive business growth from a technical perspective.
Got it. So when you became the CEO, did you what was the company at in terms of revenue, and number of people, and the
Yeah,
size
when
of the
I took
company?
over the company as CEO, we were about 20 employees,
Yeah.
probably 2.5 million in revenue when I took over the helm.
Yeah. You said 20 employees and about 2.5 million in revenues, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, somewhere in
Yeah.
there. Hmm.
Yeah. And you
Hmm.
quadrupled it, right? Is that right? Did I do the math right?
Yeah, exactly right.
Under your
Uh-huh.
leadership.
Hmm.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Hmm.
So, how did you form the vision? So, did you have a vision of
Yeah.
what you would do differently from Stephanie's vision? And what was that? Did you have a sense of a vision when you took on the role of a CEO?
Yeah, absolutely. I saw, I think it's twofold actually. I
Right.
saw what the limitations of tying the company's brand and the company's future to an individual. And I think
Yeah.
that became very apparent. I think it served us tremendously well in the beginning.
Yeah.
But as we sort of broke out of the market, as we
Yeah.
broke out into larger industry, we really needed to change the brand and the culture to not just be an individual and the founder, but to be something that could sustain and could scale as we
Yeah.
scaled. So that
Right.
was probably the first biggest I think vision
Hmm.
that I tried to instill here, and then I think the second was the idea that this company um, should be owned and managed by the people that run it.
Yeah.
And so instead of just one owner or two owners, really expanding that ownership. We have 7 owners now, looking to expand that, be employee owned and driven.
Absolutely right. There is a handoff of a leadership, right? So we agree on the vision. Agree in the sense that we kind of latch onto the vision. The vision is there, and we both agree. And then you begin to you have it, you take on the reins of the company, and then you form a little bit of your own vision, right? And
Hmm.
yet underneath there, that vision, uh,
Hmm.
sometimes there's values.
Yeah.
What are some of the values that you shared with Stephanie, and the values that she instilled in the company?
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say
Mm-hmm.
it's really easy to call those out because they're
Uh-huh.
still really core to who we are.
Yeah.
I'd say the first one is transparency.
Ah,
I
yes.
was shocked when I came on board with Stephanie, how she shared financials, how she shared where she wanted to go, how she wanted to
Yeah.
take the company. When there were issues, they were very present
Yeah.
and they were dealt with right away.
Right.
And so I think that sense of transparency in the financial element,
Mm-hmm.
in the human interaction element. Hey,
Right.
I'm upset at how that interaction went.
Yeah.
Let's fix it so it doesn't happen again. I think that's the biggest that is carried through and
Right.
hopefully carries long beyond me.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Mhm,
So what? So basically, there's some value system that you both agreed on, and
mhm,
that's terrific, right?
mhm,
And there was the element of vision, and so and your vision. What I'm hearing is that your vision was to make the company independent of the leadership, as in, and this is a very common problem. I run into it all the time, which is that, yeah, I call it the dependency epidemic, right? That
mhm.
the company, the leader is charismatic,
Yeah.
and they're unbelievable. Like, you say, she just, fills up the room when she
Command a
walks
room.
into,
Yeah,
command a room,
exactly. Mhm.
and and that's a force of personality. But the problem is, the challenge with that is that we become dependent on that, and then that
Mhm.
person has to show up all the time, in one way, shape, or form. So so then the organization cannot grow on its own, and it cannot become empowered to go beyond
Mhm.
the influence of the leader. And I think what
Yep.
you're saying is that the part of your vision, one of the two aspects of the vision that you laid out, was that you wanted to make it independent. So you wanted to kind of not make it dependent on you, Rob,
Mhm.
but have some elements of that, the value systems culture, that could be basically, self-sustaining and
Mhm.
not dependent. So, if you don't show up for a few weeks, or for a few months, or, maybe, who knows, maybe you need to take a sabbatical. That might be going too far, but
Mhm.
but the idea is that the organization keeps running. Is
Yeah.
that it?
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of elements in there that I think are critical for it. Like you mentioned, something happens,
Yeah.
or if I'm out, I did take a sabbatical. I climbed
You
El
did.
Cap actually for
Awesome.
a month. Yeah, but so it
There you
worked.
go. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think if I'm out, I think that's one important piece. But
Right.
as you expand and as you grow into different regions, as you bring on more clients,
Yeah.
it's just unrealistic
Yeah.
to think that one individual can have real relationships
Right.
with so many clients over so many various time zones and terrain. So there is definitely a limitation of an individual that is completely removed if
Yes.
every leader, if every client relationship has true ownership over that relationship,
Yeah.
and can build those connections based on a value system as opposed
Right.
to an individual.
Yeah. And you took that sabbatical. That is,
Yeah.
I we probably have some folks listening and watching here who would say, well, I wish I could do that, but they can't,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So, what led you to that sabbatical, and how did it
Mhm.
go? Just if you can kind of take us behind the scenes a little bit on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So we have a policy in the ad agency world. An employee staying for more than 10 years is pretty rare,
Yeah.
and we have a lot of them. And so we
Right.
decided that every 10 years, every employee gets a 1 month sabbatical, and an opportunity to have ownership of the company.
Yeah.
And so I was I was the second
Mm-hmm.
in the 10-year. I took a month off. I
Yeah.
went to Yosemite Valley.
Yeah.
I'm a rock climber,
Oh,
and I
great.
spent a month in the valley,
Yeah.
and I climbed El Cap at the end of it.
Oh, yeah. Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was really fun.
Did you summit?
I did. I made
Yeah.
it to
Yeah.
the top in 3 days,
Yeah.
climbed the nose of El Cap, and I had one phone call the whole time with work,
That
over that span.
that was that's on that's uh,
Mhm.
yeah, unbelievable.
Yeah.
That
I
is
think it proved the model
exceptional.
worked, right?
Yeah, yes, yes.
Yep.
And
Mhm.
here's the test. And when he came
Mm,
back to the company,
mm.
did he do the same, the worse, or better
Oh, better
than?
for sure.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think it's that empowerment, right?
Yeah.
Everybody wants to feel empowered, and it's easy to have a crutch or a backdrop or a hey, let's get Rob's opinion
Right.
real
Right.
quick, right? And
Yeah.
that's a really easy backdrop or
Sure.
backstop. And when that backstop is gone, I think it's very empowering for the team to know
Yeah.
that we had a great month, that the staff meeting went fantastic, that
Yeah.
we dealt with HR issues, that things happened and they moved forward. We're still who we are today, and I think that's amazing.
Yeah. So when was it that you took this sabbatical? Was it
It was last September, so
last
almost a year
September?
ago
So
today. Yeah.
yeah, it's pretty recent though. Could you tell us, maybe, we talk about the platform and the planks, right? In political
Mhm.
world, right?
Sure.
So you have a business philosophy, and you may not call it that. You may not call it.
Mhm.
We call it business philosophy here on this podcast, but there's some values and systems and processes and a combination of things, and you also keep the human element in to all of that, right? Okay, that's why you
Mhm.
say human on purpose. So
Yep.
could you give us like a bullet point idea of what it was that made it possible for you to take off a month from your
Yeah.
leadership position and take that sabbatical? So,
Yeah.
3 bullet points, 5 bullet points, something like that. What are the elements that make this business philosophy?
Yeah, so we have lots of phrases. We
Uh-huh.
can we can call them whatever they are.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's just our culture,
Yeah.
and so I think number one, the idea that everybody has autonomy to storm the hill, to make a call,
Yeah.
to take action. We have a business plan, we have a
Right.
strategic plan, we
Right.
know what needs to be accomplished.
Uh-huh.
And so I think that is number one. That's the
Right.
most important thing. I think I couldn't have taken a sabbatical, 30 days off, if people
Right.
didn't feel like they could make a call that had real
Yeah.
business impact. So I think that's
Yeah.
number one. I think
Right.
number two is really the idea that you know, we have a team of leaders, not
Yeah.
a team of employees or staff.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
every expectation doc that we have,
Right.
there's a big bulleted statement that's called your mission. And
Yeah.
so that is what everybody knows. And so forget about anything, forget about policies, procedures,
Yeah.
follow your mission. If you do your mission, you win.
Mm.
And so I think that's really important. And then number three is that I'm replaceable. At the end of the day,
Yeah.
that things can happen without me.
Mhm.
I have no ego in this game for that, and
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it's okay for Rob to be gone and for somebody else to
Yeah.
lead the ship for a while.
Yeah. I'll tell you, that is a pretty evolved way of, and I mean the word evolved in that exact
Mhm.
meaning, in exact context. It's a pretty evolved
Mhm.
way to run an organization and lead an
Mhm.
organization that, you
Mhm.
get your ego out. You're making yourself replaceable.
Mhm. Absolutely.
And that takes, some nerve and some guts, right?
Mhm.
Removing your ego from the equation.
Mhm. It
And
really
yeah.
does.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I think it's another one of those when I look at it, so in that business arc that you talked about, you have a
Yeah.
founder who it is all about them, right? That
Right.
brand is them,
Yeah.
and everything in between. And then when you have that transition brand, I
Right.
think we're kind of the lost CEOs. I mean, I've been running this company for 13 years. I'll step down,
Yeah.
and I believe firmly that in 20 more years, I'll
Uh-huh.
be the forgotten CEO. I'll be the
Love it.
CEO that's,
Yeah.
just laid this path out.
Yeah.
But what was his name again? Was it Rob? I think that was his name. And
Yeah.
I think that's the burden and the beauty and the
Yeah.
shame of being that second CEO in the transition.
Yes. yeah. And you've done amazing work with that. What you've done is just, I'm really fascinated by that
Mhm,
because we talk about this. We talk about
mhm,
this as a philosophical principle, but
mhm,
bringing it to where the rubber meets the road, right?
mhm.
It's difficult to kind of come face to face with that,
Yeah.
personally and sometimes professionally. So
Mm,
uh, on that note, rubber meets the road, right? How do you,
mm,
that these are philosophical or, those are abstract concepts, right? In some way,
mhm.
they could be one line slogans, or, it could be strategic plan, or it could be
Sure.
a business plan.
Mhm,
But then you have to make it applicable and executable, right? In the
mhm,
real world. Could
mhm.
you give us an example? What it is that you do? It could be one or more things that
Yeah.
to reinforce these principles and the philosophy with one employee or a group of employees.
Yeah. I think one of the founding pieces here is that when we talk about a strategic plan or we talk about every deck that I have for the staff or for managers or for leaders, they always come with a punchline of what this means for you.
Yeah,
So, for instance, we had a new employee today, onboarded her to our strategic plan,
yeah.
and at every bullet point, when one of our strategic items this year is to be agile and
Hmm.
flexible,
Yeah,
and so she is a creative. And what I told her is we have a bunch of processes for the creation of some creative opportunities or tasks, and it is your job to say, we don't need to do this step, or this step.
sure.
If you like wireframes, but we don't need them for this client, don't do them.
Hmm.
And if you have X, Y, or Z, and you think you can do it better in a faster way, then do it that way. And so I think whenever you can take the abstract idea and say,
Yeah,
here are two ways that you can do this every single day at KPS3. I think that's a very simple way,
yeah.
to put the rubber to the road.
And what I'm hearing is that this is not an accidental thing. It's not like you have all these ideas and all these things, and you just kind of let it happen. There is an intentionality to it that
Mhm,
you're giving them the guidelines, but the
mhm,
guidelines is broad enough that within those guidelines they can make their own independent decisions,
mhm.
right?
Absolutely. One of my favorite phrases I tell everybody is
Yeah,
I
yeah,
say, we are paying, and our interaction is we are buying your brain, and
yeah.
I am buying a smarter brain than my brain. So I'm going to give you
Yes,
everything that we laid out. But
yes.
at the end of the day, if you want to show value to me, you're going to tell me when I'm wrong. You're going to
Yeah,
throw away that idea. You're going
right.
to break these rules and do them on your own.
Yeah, I love it. Right.
Mhm,
And then you
mhm,
are you are managing a group of professionals.
mhm.
So and you're running a creative agency. So this is creative talent. So they have their own ideas, and they don't want creatives don't like their ideas to be
Yeah, don't put them
stifled.
in a
They
box.
exact don't put them in the box, right? And that's
Yep.
what makes them a good creative, right? So
Mhm,
and yet you have to put them in a box. So and we'll come to
mhm,
that in a little bit. I want to come to that as well. So yeah, but I want to ask you this first. What
mhm,
is the mechanism for doing this?
mhm,
Is it yeah, I think you mentioned a retreat. So is it a annual retreat, quarterly meetings,
mhm.
Monday morning, all hands, staff meetings, or is it one on one, or some combination of those?
Yeah, it's all of the above. I think that at its core,
Yeah,
we need to make sure that our managers and our leaders are very crystal clear on the mission, right? So
yeah,
that's the strategic plan. That's the
right,
that's the pieces. The 3-year plan. That's the
right,
brand. That's our core values that we can
right.
rattle those off in our sleep, and we understand them and we believe them,
Yeah,
right? That's probably the
sure.
most important part.
Right.
But
Yes. Yeah.
after that is I think where we have to give the people the trust, and the freedom and the empowerment to do that as they see fit. Because
Hmm.
we mentioned human on purpose as really our mission, and that means that everybody's different. How you think is
Yeah.
different than how I think, is different than how our clients think. Everybody is different. So there's no playbook. There's no set of rules or anything that you can follow. There's
Yeah.
only guidelines. There's only a path that we can sort of articulate. So we have
Yes.
a series of documents. We have a series of training materials that are meant to give you some guidelines. And then again, at the end of every single one of those documents is now throw it all out because everybody is different and unique.
hmm So, if you had a manager having a
Mhm.
conversation with one of the creatives, could
Yeah.
you kind of give us an idea what that sounds like? And I know it probably depends, but are there any
Mhm.
common elements to a a conversation between a manager and the creative,
Yeah.
the team member? What is that like?
So I would say the first part, for any good leader asking or having a meeting is gonna be curiosity. Number
Yeah,
one, they're gonna talk a hell of a lot less than the
y-
the person they're talking to.
I
I think
love
they're
it.
gonna ask questions
Yes.
versus giving direction.
Yeah.
They're gonna encourage the team member to come to the idea themselves.
Yes. Yeah.
And and you can only do that. I think you can only do that if you're confident enough that your solution in your head right now
Yeah.
is not the only right solution.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that's I
Yeah.
think that is a common thread in the discussions, or at least that I would hope is happening
Yeah.
in the one-on-ones. Yeah.
And that's
Mhm.
powerful. That is so powerful
Mhm.
because what you're saying is that I'm not gonna force my ideas on you. I want to get to know as a manager this. So
Mhm.
and I'm in a powerful position, as a manager, supposedly, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that hey, you need to do this. I'm probing and asking and listening,
Mhm.
and I want to know what their ideas are, what they're coming from, and they might be something different than what I had in mind as a manager,
Mhm.
and I need to
Yep.
have the courage and the humility and the transparency. You mentioned that word to basically take that in and work
Mhm.
with that and have a communication about that, right?
Yep. Exactly.
So
It takes a
yeah,
lot of confidence
yes,
uh, to be wrong, right? Or to
yeah,
know that your answer isn't the only one. And it's a very interesting way of thinking of confidence,
yeah,
because we typically think of confidence as chest up and I'm
yeah,
marching forward and I know this, but
yeah,
I think a bolder and a more stronger confidence is the person who can sit back and go, I don't have the answers. I
yeah,
don't know, but I'm okay because I know I will get there. To
yeah,
me, that's a confidence. It's like when we started LCAT, my partner, he was very worried because we had failed on Half Dome,
right,
and he was very worried that we weren't ready.
yeah,
And we weren't ready.
right,
But at the same time, we were ready. Like we had
yeah,
spent a month in there, we were ready. And so having the courage to know, hey, maybe we didn't accomplish all of our steps that we wanted to
yes,
go to get there, but having that confidence that we are strong enough and smart enough and creative enough to still get to the top. And
yes,
I think that's a really cool way to look at confidence.
100%. I love the fact that you actually quoting that as an example because I took a climbing class one time, and the instructor had this to say, I'll never forget it. He says, "In this sport, if there is haste, there is waste." And the
Yeah.
waste is, you have I don't know if you belay in your sport, but if a
Mhm.
guy who's belaying and, if they rush through tying a knot, and if it's not the
Mhm.
right knot, that's
Yeah.
a haste that turns into a waste, and the
Yeah.
waste could be catastrophic, right?
Yep.
So, so there is a sense of discipline and there's a sense of forethoughtness. I don't know if that's a word
Mhm.
or not, but
Yeah.
it's
We're in advertising, so you can say any word.
you can make up words. You can
Yeah,
make
make them up.
that's why I like talking to creatives, right? I can make up words on fly.
Yeah.
So you're thinking about things and um and at so there's discipline, right?
Yep.
So creativity is not without discipline, and this is so important, right?
Mhm.
So, there has to be some sense of discipline. So here's the question I wanted to ask you about that, how do you balance this freedom right?
Hmm.
If I was painting a painting, I
Yeah.
need a canvas, right? I can't paint
Hmm.
in the open air. I need my
Yeah.
limitations. I need my constraints within which I can express my creativity.
Hmm.
So, um, and business building is a creation, right? In a way. So, what are some of the disciplines that you put in place to make sure that things don't go out of control? But at the end of the day, you're managing a business, and business has its, you need to get revenues, and you need to have certain margins, and the market is the market, and you need to
Hmm.
meet certain numbers and those kinds of things. So how do you balance? How do you manage that fine balance between
Hmm.
those two?
Yeah. I think number one, when we talk about rules or disciplines or anything,
Yeah,
referring to them more as guardrails,
yeah, yeah,
as examples, as
yeah.
those. I think that number one creates a little less rigidity, right? In
Right,
those
right, right.
things
Yeah,
when
yeah,
you refer to it. So I think terminology is one step
yeah,
in just making sure people know. Instead of saying you have to do this, we can talk about, hey, you could try doing this.
yeah,
Those are like very simple ways to let the creative mind not be, shunned.
yeah,
So I think
yeah.
that's one. I do go back to the idea of really making sure we talk about the goal, the outcome that we want,
Right,
and not about how we get there.
100%.
Because in my mind, that's on them, right? And
Yes,
that's where their
yes,
creativity can shine.
yeah,
The goal, the budget, the timeline, those are probably the most rigid
yeah,
areas. But even then, when we talk about timelines or we talk about deliverables, they're
yeah.
still negotiable. And
Right,
and
right.
you know, I tell my kids all the time, there's
Yeah,
nothing set in stone in this world, literally. I don't
yes,
care what it is, if it's a
y-
judgment, if it's a tax bill, if it's anything, they're all up for renegotiation.
yes,
And so when we
yeah,
when we talk about a timeline or whatever, as long as we're accomplishing the goal, hey, the client needed a new website for a trade show.
yeah.
Great. That doesn't mean we have to launch the whole website. That
Right.
doesn't mean we have to, do this. It just means the goal is that when they get there, they have something beautiful to show. And so if you can accomplish that goal in a different way, we win. So I think that's probably the couple of examples of how we do that.
Absolutely right. So,
Mhm.
going back to the example of
Yeah.
rock climbing,
Mhm.
there's the rock, and that's a limit,
Yeah.
right? There's the
Yep.
rope, right? And
Mhm.
there are the limitations of the tools that you use, all right?
Yep.
And those are given.
Mhm.
And you can equate those to the guidelines that the market imposes on us. That there is a client,
Absolutely.
the client
Mhm.
wants something done in certain way. They need to be satisfied. They need to be happy. And at the same time,
Mhm.
within those boundaries, I need to express my creativity,
Mhm.
right? So, and I think
Yeah.
what I'm hearing is that you're leaving a lot of that up to
Mhm.
them for interpretation,
Mhm.
right?
For sure.
Yeah.
We were vastly under resourced with water. We
Uh-huh.
brought not enough water, and
I-
so instead of
In your state, you mean?
in when we climbed,
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
when we climbed,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
we
Yeah.
physically didn't bring enough water,
Yeah.
and so we were planning on doing it in 5 days,
Yeah.
but we didn't have enough water. So he said, "Hey, how do we do this? Well, let's cut it down to 3 days.
Yeah.
Let's climb through the night because it's cooler."
Right.
And we were able to get to the top. We had no water at the top, but we were able to do it instead of getting pulled off. I think
Yeah.
we started about 10 teams, and we were only two that made it to the top,
Yeah. Yeah.
or maybe three because it was so hot. But
Yeah.
I think that adaptation of, okay, the constraint was 5 days, but it
Yeah.
wasn't a constraint. That was our
Yes.
constraint. We
Right.
did it in
Right.
3 instead, right?
Yeah. Yes. 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 Yeah.
So
Right.
I think it's a good analogy for sure. Mhm.
100%. Is there
Mhm.
a parallel example that you can cite from your work that you did for a client? If there was a project where they wanted A, B, C, X, Y, Z,
Mhm.
and there were certain constraints, and similar to
Yeah.
not having water, and
Mhm.
you were able to summit, you were
Yeah.
able to deliver what you needed to deliver to that client.
Mhm.
Your favorite
Absolutely.
example.
It happens all the time, but I would say a really great example is one of our clients is People Grove.
Yeah.
They're an education software
Right.
that helps people find their path. But essentially, they wanted to do a brand launch,
Right.
and so in order for us to deliver that in time. There was no way that we could take the current site, massive, hundreds and hundreds of pages, and get that live. So
Right.
instead, we decided, okay, we're going to launch a microsite for that launch.
Sure.
We'll get all the materials for the internal launch, and then over the course of the next 2 weeks, we will roll that out.
Right.
So I think those are examples that we do every single day
Yeah.
for how to compromise, but again, still accomplish the mission.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Absolutely. Rob, here you are. You are at 10 employees and 50 employees and 10 million in revenue.
Mhm.
And I'm assuming that you have a, mountain climbing, you get to a base camp and then you have another camp right above that, right?
Mhm.
So the idea is that the skill set that got you there, some of it is
Yeah.
transferable to get to the next base, the next
Mhm.
level, but you may have to do something different
Yeah.
going forward, right? So
Mhm.
what's your vision going forward for KPS3? And are you looking at your business philosophy to say, what elements of this business philosophy will still be applicable going
Mhm.
forward? And what elements of that will need to be, refreshed or looked at again? Um,
Yeah.
y-
A quick side note, I think, as you talked about that, we have a couple of sayings that we like to use
yeah.
at KPS3, and one is old beliefs and new beliefs. And I think
Yes.
what you're getting at is very similar of, hey, I grew up and I've worked with some of these my business partners for over a decade.
Yeah.
And so we have some baked in beliefs.
Yes.
And those beliefs
Yes.
served us well.
Yeah.
And
Right.
it got us to where we are today.
Right.
So having that humbleness, having that sort of open-mindedness to say,
Yeah.
hey, that is an old belief. For
Exactly.
instance, we have to over deliver in order to make our clients happy. That is
Yeah.
an old belief that we had to do in our early stages
Right.
when we were the underdog. And now we need a new belief
Yes.
that we don't have to over deliver. We have to deliver exactly what we promised
Yes.
in this new KPS3. And so having these conversations around what is an old belief that is hindering us from the next level, I think opens that whole conversation that I think you're getting at.
Sure. Yeah. And
Mhm.
what is your next vision? In
Yeah.
terms of number of employees, the revenue, profitability, even in terms of employee ownership that
Yeah.
you mentioned.
So a couple of things from our vision currently. So it's a 3-year plan. We just kicked it off,
Hmm.
and we have a profitability goal.
Right.
We have an employee and a client retention goal, and
Sure.
then we have sort of a ownership and a financial state goal. When I think about the vision for KPS3 in the next 3 years, we really have three pillars that we're going for.
Sure.
Number one is financial freedom,
Yeah.
and that comes with a profit margin, like a net profit margin between 15 and 20%.
Hmm.
We've hit it several times over our tenure,
Yeah.
but that really does give us a lot of freedom. It allows us to do bonuses, to cover
Yeah.
crazy health insurance costs, all those
Yeah.
things. So
Yeah.
financial freedom. Regional growth is another one for us. We have a big national client base, but they're
Yeah.
in very niche elements. So B2B SaaS.
Yeah.
We have education pieces. We have healthcare. So they're
Yeah.
very niche. Um, at a national level, but at a regional level, they're not as grand. So
Sure.
making sure that we have a regional brand, a reputation
Sure.
on the West Coast that can
Hmm.
stand in all of our departments.
Yeah.
And then finally, privately held.
Mhm.
So nobody is a number on a spreadsheet. We're trying to avoid equity in our industry as media firms get sort of gobbled up.
Yeah.
It's really hard to keep the same sort of culture that we have and embrace.
Yeah.
We love private equity, and I think it's a fantastic mechanism for a lot of
Right.
companies. But in a creative space, I do feel like that is a competitive advantage that we have.
Sure.
And so right now we have about 7 owners, and the goal is to get to between 11 and 15 in the
Got it.
next 3 years. So expand that base.
Sure. Sure.
Mhm.
And as you, yeah, I love the details that you have. That for a creative, so what you strike is this difficult balance between numbers and KPIs and the goals, the hard goals, not just the
Mhm.
aspirational goals, but the number goals. And you are navigating that within this the creative talent world,
Mhm.
which is you don't want to stifle people because of those constraints, and it's fascinating for me to hear this. Have you gotten any resistance? So, for example, if we can take one example of the things that you mentioned, one
Mhm.
was that we've always we need to over deliver. There was one belief system, and not now you're kind of rethinking that belief system for the next phase of growth.
Mhm.
Did you get any cultural pushback from
Mhm.
the people within your group?
Oh, yeah, loads
And
of it. Yeah.
that seems like me to be. I'm one of those people who might do it, and
Mhm.
it would be
Mhm.
very difficult for me to not. I'm there with someone, and we're happy, and we're getting along, and the customer is happy, and they
Mhm.
say, "Hey, is this change the scope?"
Mhm.
And we'll say, "Sure, yes, we'll do it."
Mhm.
Right? And
Yep.
so, yeah,
Yeah, no,
yeah,
tons of resistance. I think on that one, the philosophy behind it before was always as an opportunity for learning and growth.
yeah,
So
yeah,
whenever a client said, "Hey, here's a $50,000 budget, here's a $200,000 budget," in our minds, we thought, "Great, we're going to deliver that."
hmm,
And then we're gonna find, another 20% that we want to learn, do something crazy, do something
right,
that helps us grow.
right,
And when we were smaller, that worked perfectly
yes, yeah,
because that was only a small amount of people. We'd usually work a little overtime to make it happen,
yeah,
and so it worked. But at scale, when you do that, there's 2 issues at hand. Number one, the numbers get really big.
yeah,
Our biggest write-off, so like free work,
yeah.
we had a year where we wrote off 1.5 million
Wow.
in just written off because we over delivered.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but the problem with that is that the clients that we over delivered for
Yeah.
didn't value the over delivery.
Right.
It was us, and so we thought we were doing this great thing for them, but in reality, they were like, "Oh, thanks, no big deal." So
Hmm.
now
Yeah.
we're very intentional, and if we're going to over deliver, we want to make sure that we're over delivering so that the client is ecstatic, and it's
Yeah.
something that they value through and through, not something that we value through and
Yes.
through. We can have our own projects on the side,
Yeah.
and so I think that was the biggest shift, and people did not like that. So especially the old guard, right? Like all of us
Yes.
old folks were
Yeah.
like, "No
Yeah.
way! Don't worry, Rob won't care. We can
Yeah.
write that off."
Yeah.
And so that was a very hard cultural shift for sure.
Yeah. And was there something for you that was, and it could be this example, but
Yeah.
for you, Rob,
Mhm.
was there a belief that was difficult for you to break through?
Yeah. So very much so, and I appreciate your comment about the creativity and
Yeah.
analytical. I definitely jump between those. But
Yes. And yeah.
so
Yeah. Yeah.
um, So I love technology.
Yes.
I love software development,
Uh-huh.
and I love really complex elements. And
Yeah.
so and my vision was to lean more into those. We've developed some extremely complex pieces of software,
Right.
and I love it. I think it's amazing.
Yeah.
And I think from a technical perspective, it shows, hey, if a marketing firm can develop this tool and this application, they can build my website no problem.
Right.
And so that was my belief, that those were fun, that those pushed us forward. But the team hated them.
Uh-huh.
Huge QA cycles,
Yeah.
long, development cycles, using Jira at an ad agency is like a sin. So, there was a
Yeah.
lot of complexities in that.
Hmm.
And so that was a huge belief. I think going back to the founder story, the other belief that I had to let go of was that the CEO needed to be the face of the company for it to
Yeah.
thrive.
Right.
And so that was a belief that was instilled in me, that I also had to let go of. Like, we have a board meeting
Yeah.
with a really awesome big client tomorrow, and I'm not going to be there. And
Yeah.
and that is breaking that old belief that
Yeah.
I need to be there as the representation of the company, when in
Yeah.
reality, we have 7 owners. There's gonna be 2 owners in that meeting. Why would I need to be there as well?
Yeah. And how difficult was it to change that belief? That especially the one about the founder being
Yeah.
needing to be the face of the company.
Um, I would say that it it was extremely difficult, because of a value system. So,
Yeah.
timing wise, it was fairly quick for me to get used to,
Hmm.
but my value in the company, being there, it's really easy to say, hey, that's my value.
Yeah.
I can show up, I can have this meeting
Right.
and be great for the company. So, rethinking my value proposition to KPS3 was probably the harder thing, that frankly I'm still challenged with today. Like,
Uh-huh.
what is my true value to the company?
Yeah. If you saw someone who is struggling with this, let's say
Mhm,
there's another up and coming leader and
mhm,
they've taken over leadership from someone else and then they're going through similar situation, they have to reformulate or reframe a belief that they have.
mhm.
What would you say to them? What's a nugget, a goal to share with them from your own experience of having done,
Mhm.
reframe this belief system?
Yeah, I think the first one is, do not attempt to write them down or to challenge them
Yeah.
until you're truly ready to embrace the new belief.
Ah, yeah, yeah,
Because I think there's something psychological in putting it down on paper, because most leaders, they can know their flaws. They
yes,
can know what they're wrong at,
yeah,
but very few can actually change that, right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
so when we think about it, if you can not give yourself a task
hmm,
until you're ready to accomplish that task,
hmm,
it's not holding brain power. You're not failing because you
yeah,
didn't write it down and you didn't say you were going to do it. So
yeah,
I think the biggest piece of advice is don't try and write down a bunch of new beliefs and old beliefs
yeah.
until you're truly ready to change them, and
I
tackle
love
them.
it. Yes, I
Mm,
absolutely love that
mm,
because we can make it a very mechanical process, buy a
mhm,
book and go through the exercises. And, we
mhm,
need to come up with new belief system at the end of the day. It doesn't work like
mm.
that, does it?
No,
So,
definitely not.
and then we beat ourselves up for
Mhm,
not succeeding in changing that. I
exactly.
still have those
Uh-huh.
belief systems. So I love it. I love what you just said.
Mhm,
And it comes from you actually have done it for yourself. So that's
mhm,
gold. If you look at yourself and you can even go beyond to your childhood,
mhm.
Rob Gaedtke,
Yeah.
time frame here and Rob today talking,
Mhm,
having this conversation. How are you different today? And I know that that's probably big answer, complex question with a lot of different answers, but if you can just point out one or two things that signifies how different you are today because of the professional journey that you've taken.
yeah, I would say, the biggest change that I have seen in my career, in my childhood, would probably be my ability to let things go.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the biggest. I held a lot of if I made a mistake, if
Yeah.
I, did something wrong, if somebody else did something wrong or didn't, I held on to those very tightly.
Right.
And I let them define me, I think, sometimes,
Right.
as opposed to now. I think I can have hard conversations. I can have somebody say mean things and things that are very maybe said in anger or maybe
Yeah.
whatever. I think I can let those roll off.
Hmm.
And I also think I can listen to them. I think before, if I was able to find, oh, they were wrong,
Yeah.
right? They're just mad. They're just
Yeah.
whatever. I
Right.
didn't really listen to the meat of it. And
Yeah.
now somebody can yell at me, or I can have an altercation on the street, and I can
Hmm.
walk away going, maybe I should have not been going so fast, or maybe
Yeah.
I should have slowed down, or
Yeah.
whatever the case may be. So I think that has probably been maybe the biggest evolution
Yes. Yeah.
in my career. And then I think the other one um, is probably the idea that I've always naturally led. I was in leadership as a kid, and
Hmm.
even in a friend's circle, if we were going to do something, I'll organize it. I'll be the one to say, "Hey, let's go to the skate park" or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
Um, and I think I'm learning now that I don't have to be that person. I
Yeah.
don't have to be
Yes.
in the driver's seat coming
Yeah.
up with the piece.
Yes.
And that's a fairly new
Yeah.
evolution.
Yes. Yeah. And I can resonate with that because it's relaxing, isn't it? It's just kind of let go and fall back, and
Mm-hmm.
things just fall in place beautifully
Mm-hmm.
without you. And
Yeah.
meanwhile, you're more peaceful and more happy and more relaxed.
Mm-hmm.
And you are, and in my opinion, I think that makes it even more effective.
Uh-huh.
So
That's the ironic part of it,
that's the
right? It's
ironic
like,
part of it.
yes.
It's it
Uh-huh.
is it's very much like sports. I mean, we learned that from
Yeah.
sports, like martial arts and things like that. The more
Mm-hmm.
relaxed you are, the more effective you are in the sport itself.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything that you wanted to share, but
Mm-hmm.
you haven't had a chance to express yet?
Yeah. I think one thing that I believe really firmly in is this idea of uh, building a place for people to grow,
Yeah.
and knowing that that growth cannot be KPS 3. I think a true leader, somebody who has a mission of human on purpose,
Yeah.
to say that and then not encourage somebody to take a new job, encourage somebody to explore a new opportunity. I think I think it's just lip service.
Mm-hmm.
And I do believe in today's world, in today's ever changing pathways, that the more you can encourage an employee or a teammate to find what they love, and
Mm-hmm.
if that is at your company, fantastic.
Yeah.
And if it's not, encourage them to go explore it.
Yeah.
We've had, over the course of my tenure, I think we've had about 11 employees leave and come back. I am one of them.
Wow. Yeah.
And I think you can't do that unless you sent them off in a very positive light.
Yes.
That there was encouragement. So I think
Yeah.
that's another business philosophy that I do firmly believe. If you're a people-driven culture, that people-driven cannot be spiteful of somebody leaving your company.
Yes.
Hmm?
Human on purpose is human period on purpose.
Yeah,
Could you kind of expound on that? What does that mean? And what's the
yeah,
significance of that?
absolutely.
Yeah.
The world we live in today, especially with AI-driven, components, everything that we do is driven by technology.
Yeah.
And in that world, no matter what. The only reason for this technology is so that we can have human connections,
Yes.
that we can drive this conversation right here. We are on Riverside. We
Yeah.
have, we're on a browser. We have fast internet, and all of
Yeah.
that is happening so that you and I can have a lovely
Human
conversation.
to human conversation. Right. Yeah.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
And so, I think it's important for KPS3 to remember that
Yes.
behind all the screens, behind everything that we do in marketing, we are still trying to make one connection with one human so that they can purchase a product, that they can be exposed to a service, that they can, change their behavior. That is
Yes.
that is our role in life. And in order to do that, because there are 1,000 things pushing us to not have this conversation. We could have recorded this on our own,
Yeah.
spliced it together, and it would be horrible.
Yes. Yeah. Or I would have
But
my digital avatar and you would have had yours
yeah,
and we could just
exactly
put
right.
that.
And
Yeah.
so in order to make sure, because it's easier
Yeah.
to go that route,
Yes.
we have to be intentional about it. So we have to make those human interactions on purpose.
100%. You're touching on something that I'm very passionate about, that this
Mhm.
is what we're doing right now.
Mhm.
That cannot be replicated by machines or algorithms or artificial intelligence. You can make it very polished. You can
Mhm.
go to Notebook LM and they create a podcast, and
Mhm.
it would be very good. But
Mhm.
there's something here, you know,
Yeah.
having a conversation in the moment and coming up with these ideas that we're coming up with, and in just kind of in talking about these things, the aha moments that happen, in the moment, that cannot be done with an AI, because at the end of the day, AI, no matter how sophisticated it is, it doesn't do that. That's not what
Yeah.
it's just, so it's just not capable
Or
of doing that. So
Or if it does in the future, if it is ever capable of it, it's not real.
right,
And so that interaction is not, what are we teaching the other AI to buy the product or the service
right,
or
yeah,
make the connection? Like, that doesn't
yeah,
work. This works.
yeah,
And people, no matter how sophisticated you think
yeah,
they are making a purchase right here. They are making a
yes,
connection. The decision of our friendship here
yes,
today, that is being made from our heart,
yes,
not our head.
yeah,
And the only thing replicated right now is the head, and it
yes,
doesn't drive our decisions.
yes. And Rob, change, right? You
Mhm.
lived through this change, and I'm fascinated to watch it. And you
Mhm.
talk about it, the belief system
Mhm.
changing
Yeah.
is some, a lot of people go through their entire lives without ever
Mhm.
looking at their belief system, much less just kind of trying to change them, or
Mhm.
being even having succeeded at changing any of their belief systems, right?
Mhm.
And you have done it. So there's an internal change, and there is the onslaught of change coming from all directions in the external world.
Yeah.
So changes in us and changes around us, right? It's just all
Mhm.
around. How do you ground yourself
Yeah.
in the midst of
Um,
these kinds of changes happening?
I'm actually really passionate about this
Uh-huh.
topic.
Uh-huh.
I have a website, robinshana.com. It's my personal
Sure.
family value system.
Uh-huh.
And uh, at the end of the day, any leader, anybody has to know who they are
Yeah.
before they can lead anybody, before they can have meaningful connections.
Thank you.
So I
Yeah.
have a personal tagline of "Do amazing things,"
Yeah.
and I believe in three firm things.
Yeah.
Everything I do has to be truthful.
Yeah.
Everything I do has to come with love. Um, uh, and anything that I do is driven. So truth, relevant, drive.
Yeah.
Those are what ground me every day.
Uh-huh.
My family came up with those, and I think any leader who wants grounding should put together who they are as a person,
Yeah.
because when it all goes south, you can read that and you can
Yeah.
recenter and you can say, okay, this is why I'm doing it.
100%. And you
Mm.
said my family helped me come up with that. So how
Yeah,
did that? So did you have a family meeting? Was it a formal meeting, or
yeah.
was it just one of those? Oh, really?
Yeah, no, we sat
Could you?
down over the course of maybe 2 months,
Yeah,
and we said, "Hey, what do you love? What do you think we value in this family?" So no different than what a business does.
yeah,
And we sat down, and my daughter was very young when we wrote it,
uh-huh,
and my son was probably, I don't know, 12, maybe 10.
yeah,
And yeah, so everybody
yeah,
contributed. We all decided what we
yeah,
value as a family, and then we wrote examples, right? Like, what does
mhm,
it mean
yeah,
to live by these? So we
right,
play in the rain. We're
yeah,
always up for a party.
yes,
We have friends over.
yeah,
We value experiences over money. So
yeah,
all these things that we talk about, and we just sort of talked it through.
yeah. I'm getting goosebumps as you talk about this. This is beautiful. I love it.
Yeah,
Love it.
yeah. It's really
Thank you,
fun.
thank you so much for
Yeah.
sharing that. Yeah,
Mhm.
and we'll put that website that you mentioned on our show notes if you're okay with that.
Yeah,
If
absolutely.
someone
No.
gets some inspiration from that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's
Yeah,
fun. And again, I think every leader should do it regardless of
yeah,
anything. It's just good to have values in this world.
sure. If someone wants to get hold of you for any
Yeah.
reason, how do
Mhm.
they get hold of you? What's the best way?
Yeah, I'm like I say, an open book. Rob at kps3.com. You can see kps3.com. Most roads lead there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Great.
Mhm.
Amazing conversation. Thank you so much, Rob, for sharing your story and your inner world, and the stories of your family and your work. Amazing conversation. I learned a lot,
Well,
and hopefully our listeners also learned a lot. So thank you.
well, thank you, Bhavesh. It's been a pleasure. I
Okay.
really appreciate it, and yeah, I hope we get to talk in the future.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, hopefully we can have you back here in some other aspect of your life. You have so many things to share that I'm sure we can carve out another episode.